Well, the electrician left just a little bit ago. We have our new lights in here in the garage, and looks pretty good in here. Don't have them on yet, but I'll show you here. It was very dark in this part of the garage, here the front part of the garage, so now it's lit a lot better. Ready? There we go. Of course you can't. Now we can see. There, it was picking up the window, so it messed it up. So, really nice and bright in here now. There's Oliver. Say hi.
Hi.
And they put 5 lights in here, and there's the boxes right there from the thing, from the different lights that they put in. They had to do some rewiring and things like this, and the fuse panel back in there. There were a bunch of different buildings, old sheds and things on this property, and there's wires going to them. And most of them were disconnected, but there were 2 that were still connected. The breakers weren't on, but I just said, please disconnect those completely. So going into the shop and turn the lights on in there. So yeah, pretty exciting. I won't show the lights because I don't want to blind anybody, but it's nice and bright in here now. I'm actually gonna be able to see to work on a vehicle. And which I just want to make a statement on that. A lot of people said, why didn't you replace the motor or something on the Crown Victoria, the Ford Crown Victoria that I had? What's the update on that and whatever else? That car had a lot of trouble, okay? The window trim around the back rear passenger door, it was bad, it was leaking. I would have had to replace that. The trunk trim, the rubber trim around the trunk, the windshield washer fluid, there was a hole in the like the reservoir or whatever of that would have needed to be replaced. There were lights coming on in the dash just randomly. The rear doors, they were locked from the you can't unlock them from the inside. That wasn't a huge deal, but I would have had to take the whole door apart. I mean, there was a long list. Okay, that's just a few things. There was a long list of things wrong with that car. So when we were getting onto the on-ramp and I felt the motor kind of blow, like that, and I thought, oh boy, and I thought, well, if this motor blew, I'm not going to put the money into it to fix this thing up. Yeah, it was a Texas car, didn't have rust, the whole thing, but the paint was chipping off everywhere, all over the car. Big pieces of paint just peeling off of it. Would have needed all new paint. I mean, it was a lot. So the garage I go to, I trust them. I've known them for years. And so people, oh, he ripped you off and all this stuff. It crossed my mind, oh, it's just the motor's blown and whatever. But he showed me, okay? So, and young guy got a car. He can fix it up. He can do the work himself. He's a mechanic. Oh, but Brian, you could do that. People don't realize how much time I put into research for this ministry. There's a lot of hours that I put in, a huge amount of hours. And then there's the spiritual attack stuff. I just got over a really bad headache that I had. And it just takes my ability to work way down. You don't know the depression and the sleepless nights and all the stuff that happens to you when you're, exposing a lot of evil stuff. So I'll just, change the head and whatever. That would be just the beginning of the problems for that car. So it was one of those things. I prayed about it and I just thought, all right, I can't put the time or the money into this car. So I'm going to be answering some other questions here I've been seeing in the comment section, but we're going to the shop now. And I'm getting some work done in here too. I'll show you what we got done. Here on this, well, first and foremost, I'll show everybody this. Let me turn around slowly so I don't make people sick. This old lathe here, the old metal lathe. I'm going to be making a separate video about this thing, but it had this big plywood thing going up with all the different switches and inverters and all this stuff on it. That's all been done. This thing's totally unhooked. As you can see, there's no more power going to this thing. So I have the motor unbolted. I don't know how I'm going to move that thing. It weighs a lot. So it's going to take some effort there. I don't know how. If you have any suggestions of how I can lift that thing, I mean, it's pretty heavy, So, but I'm probably going to take this off in order to sell it. I'm probably going to take the motor off this upper table thing here, this thing, and I'm going to take this other pulley, type of thing off here, and this leather belt, I'll just kind of flop it down that way. And I'm going to probably take off this bracket thing because it's very top heavy right now. I mean, the bottom part weighs a lot, but so this is I'm getting this ready to sell this. I don't need a metal lathe. It's really a very old one. It's well over 100 years old because I think the company went out of business in 1912 or something. So beautiful lathe, really neat. I love the old gears here on the end. Old time machinery that you get your fingers in here and they get smashed. But so that needs to be done. Going to be selling that. I don't know what it's worth. I have no idea. The electrician, his helper that was with him, he said he'd love to have the thing. He'd love to buy it from me, but he said he has no place to put it. So that's another thing that needs to be done. But they disconnected this whole thing, and then over here they put a whole new panel in, new fuse panel. The old one is down here. I'll show you. You can see it right there. The old glass fuses and everything else, and it was all rusty and whatever, and very much rigged. A lot of stranded wire, which is not really that good of an idea when you're dealing with 220 volt and everything. But real nice, clean install here. Looks really good. And there were two 220 volt plugs down here, one there and one there. They're actually centered. And I just said just one for, I'm going to eventually get a wood lathe for in here, a professional lathe like I used to have. I sold my professional lathe. I had a Powermatic 2436, I think, 24-inch swing, 36 between centers. And I sold that thing to be able to buy, a home in Maine. It was a very tough decision because I really loved that lathe. But but they had to do this. But then the problem was, you can see here the 220 volt cable right there is disconnected. Ah! I got you, made you jump, didn't I? Oliver jumped. But that cable, it runs up along the ceiling, the whole way over there to that, over there. I'll point to it right there. And then there's like a junction box back behind it right there. And that was hooked into the exhaust fan system, which I won't be using. And so I have to take all that wire down from there, which can be scrapped then. But the problem was that where the gray cable goes up right there, so if I can point to it this way, that gray cable going up right there, it was coming in the top of the old fuse box with the glass fuses, and it just went right to the things. And he said he doesn't like to do it that way. The electrician, he said, you go down and then up. You give plenty of cable in there, and there was not enough cable. So unfortunately, he didn't know that when he quoted me the original job, so he just thought that the cable would come down and loop up and that there'd be enough to put in the new panel, and there wasn't. So we had to have all new cable put in. The old stuff is here on the lathe. There you can see the old cable, which is actually aluminum wire in that, which is really crazy to think about. Here, you don't need to pull the whole thing, but if you can see, it's like silver in there. That's aluminum. And I said, aluminum? And he said, oh yeah, that's what all the new wiring is. People can't afford copper anymore. Real heavy stuff like that. He said, if that was copper, it would be $5 a foot. And we needed about 60 feet of it. So that would have been an expensive bunch of wire there. But just crazy to think about. So we had to have all new wire put in over out to the panel box thing out there, the main circuit breaker. And I have a spot for my lathe. Lord willing, when I can afford one of those, it's going to be very expensive as well. So more stuff to save up for. But another hornet or wasp. Yeah, we're having wasps coming in here. Normally I don't mind white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, but they're not, that's not what I'm talking about here. It's a bee. But anyhow, so and there's the pellet stove, which brings up another one of the questions. Somebody said, Brother Brian, why aren't you doing firewood, heating your shop with firewood? Well, let me explain. Because when I cut firewood earlier this year, you don't cut it in the summer. I typically like to cut in the fall into the winter of the year before I'm going to be burning it. So in other words, I should be doing firewood right now, which I've been holding off to get this job done. But I'd like to cut it in the fall/winter and then let it sit throughout the end part of the winter and then through the summer, and then you burn it that next fall. Well, when I did my firewood early this year, we didn't have this house. There was no house in sight. We had no idea if we were going to be getting a house. So I can't just, I'm busy. I don't have time to just do an unlimited amount of firewood and whatever, because then it's a storage issue as well, and you don't want to just have it out there getting soaked in the rain. And so I did enough firewood for our tiny home, because that's all we had at the time. And so then June comes along and we buy this place, and now I'm thinking, oh boy, are we going to have enough firewood? And there was no time to do more firewood because of all the busy stuff of moving things in here. So I'm hoping we have enough firewood, because there was a little bit here when we came, and then ours, combining the two, which I did the video showing all the firewood behind me there. And that might look like a lot, but when you're heating a house, that's not that much. And so that's why I don't have firewood out here. Now I'm planning, just to show you here, just for those of you who are interested, this oil furnace up above here, what I'm planning is, it's got a regular pipe. You can't really see it because it's kind of dark up there, but it goes up in this area here, kind of goes up in, and you can't see with that. No, don't worry about it, son. And so what I'm planning is, I'm thinking, and you can see the vent hole in the floor right there that I'm pointing to with my finger, that black square. I'm thinking if I could maybe put a wood stove, which I have, I'll show you here. I bought this stove years ago, an old Fisher stove, which they're some of the best ones ever built. And it was out in one of my sheds at our property, and it got rusty. Unfortunately, it was beautifully restored, and it got rusty from sitting for a few years out in a damp shed. But it's easy enough. I mean, it's, 1/2-inch plate steel. I mean, it's not going to rust through. But I could clean that thing up, and then if I put that stove over underneath that hole above my head right there, and take it up through the pipe that's already there and get rid of the oil furnace, then I could have a wood stove here. And I'm gonna have to move this rack back here because it's got some paint and finish and things on it, which I'm still not sure what to do with all of that. This guy, he had so much paint around and whatever else. So that's an answer to that question. Why am I not heating this with firewood? Because there was no time to do enough firewood for both house and shop. So there's that. So, but the job was a little bit more expensive than I was hoping for. It came out to $3,000 for this work, and well worth the money, because he did a very good job, and there was a lot of things that needed to be replaced. That covers the cost of all the new lights. Oh, another thing, I'll show this. He has right here, this was not working before. I'll show you the goofy light and the interesting little story about that light. And but I said I want this light to work, and it used to go up here kind of towards this area here, which is always sort of dark. So if you want to turn it on, Oliver, go ahead. So now we have a light there to replace the one that didn't work. But this light here, I'll show you this as I spin around, make people dizzy. Hopefully not. This light that's here on the floor, you can see this kind of a curved thing here, this way. I have a hard time making my hand go to, but that light right there, let me show you something very interesting about it. It was up there on the ceiling, and I took that down. I tore that down myself, and they disconnected the wires. But let me show you something very interesting about this light that we discovered. Here is the, hold on, here's the bottom side. We already took out the ceramic thing for the light that was in there. But look right here. Look where this light came from. It says Boston. This was actually a street light on one of the streets in Boston. And it goes down to there. So that thing was connected to that post going up right there. It came out like this, and it was been right about that same spot where that new light's at. Yeah, so it was right there. So he somehow, I have no idea, he got a street light from Boston. So how did he do that? I have no idea. He was, worked with law enforcement and everything, so I don't think he went down and ripped it off or anything like that. He was law enforcement, border patrol, and game warden mostly, but he worked with border patrol and also the state police, so he didn't steal it. Okay, at least I don't think so. But so the question is here, give me your opinions, what should I do with this thing? The curved part there, like the pole that goes up like that, that pole is aluminum, pretty heavy too. So it would be, decent amount for scrap. Or should I try to sell it as a street light from Boston? Vintage street light from the streets of Boston. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. So we have to take care of this bill that we have now, and we have to clean up. They were going to clean up. The electricians, oh, we'll clean up. I said, no, don't worry about it. And so I moved that cabinet right there. You can see that little wooden cabinet thing there. I moved that from over behind the black table area over there, the metal workbench thing. And I moved it over there. So I'm going to be putting some tools in that and cleaning that up. But this is what helps me to kind of de-stress out here. But I'm also going to be looking to supplement my income because the ministry thing is all right, but it gets kind of sporadic at times. Just heard a wasp flying someplace. But actually had a wasp last night. We're standing over here. This is Oliver's workbench right here, right there where he does his work, right there. And I was standing there, helping him out with some things, and I felt something kind of on the back of my ear, and I thought, what's that? Some kind of bug, like a house fly or something. Went like this. Oh, it's a wasp. They're coming in here because it's getting cold, so they're finding little holes and little ways to get in. But yeah, so thank you to everybody out there for your support of the ministry. I try to save money as much as I can, and but this is all work that had to be done. And the other thing too, which was kind of scary, as he was taking apart this old fuse panel. I mean, it's good when it's got duct tape covering the edges. But when he was taking this thing apart, this old fuse panel, these old glass fuses, which aren't even legal anymore, from what I understand, you can't put them in new house construction, let me say it that way. A lot of the wires were very brittle. And the one, I literally took a pair of needle nose pliers and just was squeezing the insulation. It was just crumbling and falling off. So how much longer would it have been before we would have had a fire here? I don't know. So it was the right time to get this job done. But and I have to say this too, another interesting story that he told me. He was saying about that he knows somebody in the area that I think that they own a lodge, or like a hunting lodge or something like that, and that they had a fire, if I remember correctly from what he told me. And he said that they had a lot of masonry type, stone walls and whatever else that were ruined in this fire. And he said that they had a stonemason come and give an estimate to replace the work, all the stone walls and everything, $275,000 was the estimate. Just insane. The inflation. And what people are starting to finally realize here is that our nation is in a lot bigger trouble than people realize. I mean, just the fact that we can't afford, this heavy cable here, right there, is aluminum. It's not even copper anymore. There's so much that is just cheap, and the dollar's being destroyed. And I heard recently that Barron Trump, Trump's youngest son, he just made $150 million off of one of the cryptocurrencies that the Trump family's invested in. And I thought, a 19-year-old with $150 million, 19-year-olds don't need $150 million. But these guys and the normal American people are working just so hard and can barely pay the bills. It's insane. And I actually was talking with my wife, and I said, the day's going to come when we're probably going to be spending $400 or $500 at the grocery store, because it's getting that insane. And yesterday, literally, we went to the grocery store, and there were a number of things we needed. We had to, get some more expensive items. Usually it's just a quick trip to the grocery store, get the things that we need. And but this time we had to get some more expensive things. And we came out of there, $398. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it comes out the cash register, $398, and I thought, and I mean, we're buying stuff that's going to last us for, a few weeks, but you know what I'm saying here. I mean, $398, three of us, and Luther. We do buy Luther some, he gets regular food. We don't buy him dog food. We just buy him, chicken legs, that's his favorite, and whatever. Some liver and chicken hearts.
Other stuff like gizzards, he gets picky about.
Yeah, he sometimes eats chicken gizzards, but he gets picky sometimes and turns up his nose, and he doesn't want the gizzards.
Yeah.
We'll get him some cheaper pork chops and things like that. So, but still, $398. And I mean, I'm sure you're experiencing it out there as well. Just insane. While our out of touch leaders or corporate masters, I guess you could call them, are just out there just, trillions of dollars for this friend. Oh, here, you need some money? Oh, we'll send you, $60 billion to whatever it was, to Argentina. We'll sign deals with this and, all that. And they're just throwing around billions of dollars while, us small people are down here trying to struggle and get along and going, okay, $3,000 for that repair. Okay, I don't have to get the cash for that and whatever. And which he actually offered a really good discount for if we pay with cash. So if we paid with check, it'd be more than that. So I appreciate the good old time way of doing things. You pay with cash, you get a discount. So really good. And yeah, I mean, he went over the cost of everything with me and stuff. And I mean, definitely was a good, deal. 2 days it took them to get the job done. So because they had to get more parts, like I said, they were not expecting to have to replace 60 feet of wire, the really heavy stuff. So just a quick little ministry update, answering a few people's questions. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask. It's how we learn. I was asking the guys a lot of questions and things, and it's nice to have younger guys that are really knowledgeable about what they do. So we learned a lot, actually, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Out here working with those guys, it was pretty neat. So yeah. We have our staging set up here, or scaffolding, depending on how you want to say it. And my ladder back there, and we inherited a few ladders here when we bought the place. So they mostly used our ladders, which really helps them out. It's quicker than getting there off their trucks and all that stuff. So, but anyhow, I'll stop raving now, or ranting, not raving. But that's going to be it. We need to get back to work doing some things out here. And we have lots of scrap wire now that we can strip the wire and turn it in then at a scrap yard, get some money. So that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching.